Today, I want to talk to you about whale sharks, and not the kind that swims in the ocean. I'm talking about the business kind of whale sharks. I've been studying a unique type of entrepreneur for about 10 years, and I have been trying to coin this phrase into business vernacular for years, and I'm gonna break it down for you today. The whale shark is a phrase I came up with mainly because you've got the term whale, which comes from maybe the financial world. Maybe when you talk about casinos, it's people that have big spending power. These are the whales, they're investors. And then they're sharks. And when you think of sharks, you think of Shark Tank and entrepreneurship. But I found that there's a unique combination of people that are part investor and part entrepreneur that are building incredible wealth with small business acquisitions. And they have been some of my best customers over the year. I've been doing mergers and acquisitions advisory for about 10 years. I'll never forget when I first started breaking into this business. I was a business broker selling small companies, and I came from a small business family. So my family is in the garden center business. So we're nurserymen is what we're called. And that is a brutal industry. My mom, who led our family garden center for many years, she would work 7 days a week in the spring growing up and was just tired and exhausted all the time. And that was my view of small business. It was just this grind that took 24/7 work sometimes to make work. And that being a small business owner was this all-encompassing challenge. And when I started selling businesses, I was imagining I was going to be selling to entrepreneurs that were going to be working all day, every day in the business, much like my mom and my grandfather did. But I would start getting these calls from business buyers, and when I would ask them about their background and if they've ever bought a business before, they would say things like, "Oh yeah, I've bought 10 of them. This will be my 11th acquisition." And these weren't private equity firms. I was aware that there was institutions that bought lots of businesses, but when I just met individuals that bought lots of businesses, I started asking them questions because I was like, how in the world are you doing this? Because in my head, that's just too much for one person to handle. And I discovered a pattern emerge, and that's where the term whale shark was born. So I'd like to just define the term whale shark once and for all, and let you know what I think a whale shark is. I think a whale shark is a normal person that's building extraordinary wealth through an acquisition strategy of multiple small businesses. That's put it simply. So I teach people to buy businesses, I sell people businesses, and it's fairly common for folks that start with a 5 or 6 figure down payment, maybe a 6-figure net worth, to be able to buy one business, pay it off over time, grow it over time, and end up with a 7-figure or multiple 7-figure net worth in less than 10 years. And I think that's awesome. I think that's a dream come true for most people. But the whale sharks really take things to another level. The whale sharks that I met typically started in the same manner, but then they kept it going and they kept wealth snowballing through multiple acquisitions, and they end up with 8 and sometimes 9-figure net worths. And in fact, this is what this series is going to be all about, is kind of examining the whale shark phenomena and telling you what the patterns I see in common with them is. So if you have it in your mind that you'd like to be one someday, the person that could start with a 5 or 6-figure net worth and turn it into an 8 or 9-figure net worth. I'm talking about 10, 20, 50, $100 million of wealth via these strategies. I'm seeing it happen, and you can do it too, and I'm going to walk you through some of the strategies that I see them employ. As I went through my career meeting many whale sharks over the years, I've noticed a pattern. There was typically 3 different kinds that I saw repeated over and over again. Let's break down the 3 different kinds of whale sharks. The first kind of whale shark is what I would call a platform builder. And these are the ones that are mostly using the private equity playbook. And if you study private equity, they typically will buy a large company that they'll call a platform company, and then they'll buy smaller companies and add it onto it. They'll sometimes call those bolt-on acquisitions or add-on acquisitions. So private equity typically has platforms that are tens of millions of dollars as their starting point, But these whale sharks are typically taking that playbook and shrinking it down by a digit or so. A platform company for a whale shark might be that company that they buy for $2, $3, $4, $5 million at the high end of the SBA lending limits, and then add on other acquisitions to it over time. What a platform building whale shark really is all about is building an empire that's synergistic inside of a niche. So they'll buy a company and then they will do horizontal or vertical acquisitions to it. So let me give you an example. My family is in the nursery business. I mentioned that earlier. So we have a garden center that we sell retail plants to the good people of Wichita Falls, Texas. Go to smithsgardentown.com, check us out, or go buy some plants from us if you're in Wichita Falls. So that's our family business. If our family business wanted to become a platform building whale shark, what we would want to do is make acquisitions that are horizontal in nature or vertical in nature. Horizontal would mean we're going to take the concept that we already have proven to be a retail garden center in Wichita Falls, but then we're going to expand horizontally. So that means geographically, let's go to the north side of Dallas-Fort Worth. Let's go into Oklahoma City. Let's go into Lawton, Oklahoma. Let's go to Vernon, Texas. So these are surrounding communities, and let's just do what we already know how to do, and let's try to find the exiting owners of garden centers in those towns that maybe their kids went away and they don't have a successor lined up. And why don't we say, hey, we're in the next town over. Everybody knows we're great at being this garden center. Whenever you want to sell and retire, just let us know. We'd love to run your business and continue your legacy here. And then we would just kind of expand horizontally, which means mainly geographically, doing what we already know how to do. A vertical acquisition for Smiths would be something different. That would be like, we look at who are our suppliers and maybe we buy one of them. So an example would be we buy a lot of trees because we grow flowers in our business, but we buy trees from tree farms, but we don't own a tree farm. And so we might say, a good vertical would be, let's buy a tree farm, and then instead of paying that tree farm for that inventory, we could be stewarding and growing those trees ourselves, and we get more margin because we've captured more of the supply chain, and that's a great vertical acquisition. Another strategy we could do is we could buy a landscaping company in Wichita Falls, Texas, where we already have our garden center. And that would just allow us to expand our offerings. Instead of just selling you plants, we can now sell you design services and install services by buying a local landscaping business. And so those are all the kinds of ways, but we're always staying in our lane in this world of the platform building whale shark. And that just means we're going to be an expert in the niche, and we're gonna have an acquisition strategy, but it's all just building one super company with multiple locations, with multiple verticals, and you're just building out this empire within this small business context. So that would be an example of a platform building whale shark, would just be someone who's building an empire inside of an industry niche. They're becoming an expert and they're looking for horizontal and vertical acquisitions to bolt on to their platform company. That's the same playbook that private equity uses, but we're just taking it down to a micro scale, and you could build a really nice business that maybe you bought the first platform company and it was only doing, $2, $3, $4 million of revenue, but by the time you add on acquisitions to it and continue to grow it and find those synergies, you might get to 10, 20, 30 million of revenue, and you end up with a company that's worth tens of millions of dollars. And you can build some serious wealth by being a platform building whale shark. The second type of whale shark I noticed was one called a duplicator. This is probably the most familiar to you because you probably know someone in your life that's one of these people already. Anybody that owns like 5 McDonald's is a duplicator. Anybody that owns a multiple of the exact same kind of business is a duplicator. So they're not looking they're not looking to gobble up the supply chain and to get creative and just build one super company. They're going to build a bunch of individual companies that are basically duplicating one after the next. You wash, rinse, repeat. Franchises are a duplicator's best friend. It doesn't mean you have to use a franchise, but franchise models lend themselves really well because they are businesses in a box that can be duplicated in multiple locations. And so, for instance, I meet a lot of people that have very small businesses, like a tanning salon, for example. I've seen financials of tanning salons that, maybe they're doing 500,000 or 600,000 of top line revenue, and they're only making about 80, 90,000 of bottom line net profit for the owner. And you may think, well, that's okay. That's a pretty good living for a lot of people in America, but that's not really exciting. But what gets exciting is if you have 10 of them, right? If you have 10 of them, 20 of them, 30 of them, and you master the process of standing up that tanning salon, learning how to manage and operate it and install a general manager, and then just duplicating that over and over, and then every single one of them makes $80,000 to $200,000, and then you have a network of them, and by the next thing you know, you're making millions of dollars per year by having a network of franchises or a network of small businesses that are exact duplications. Restaurateurs are great duplicators. I see a lot of those do really well. I mean, just in my little town in Texas, we've got I'll give a shout out, Mary's Tacos. I love you. Best breakfast tacos there are. But they have locations all around the Texas Hill Country, and it is predictable every single time. It's not a franchise, it's just a family-owned small business, but they have duplicated it multiple times over. And when you go there, it is a well-oiled machine. They are cranking out those tacos. They know what they're doing. They have mastered it. But don't ask Mary's Tacos to do anything but build you the perfect Mary's Taco. They know what they're doing, and they know how to duplicate it in multiple locations. And so they're going to do very well for themselves just by duplicating that small business that they perfect and then moving it to another location and another location, and then creating a network of virtually identical small businesses. So the platform builder is building one big super company by doing different types of growth and acquisitions to make to make a small business medium-sized and big and successful. The duplicator is just duplicating a bunch of small businesses and repeating that process. But there's a third kind of whale shark that I found really interesting, and that's one that I'm probably leaning into the most because it really appeals to me. The third kind I'm calling the Archangel. The Archangel has a completely different strategy than the other two whale sharks. In fact, it's so different, I would love to do a video someday just on Archangels. We're gonna interview a bunch of them as we go on these series. So you're gonna get to know all three types of whale sharks. I'm gonna give you real life examples of all of them. But the Archangel is fascinating. They typically don't operate the businesses themselves. They typically invest in them, and then they build a diversified portfolio of small businesses. Archangels are really gifted at picking the right partners and structuring the financials of the business deals that they're take part of. They typically want to own all kinds of different businesses so that they're diversified. One of the drawbacks to the other two types of whale sharks is you're typically all in on a particular sector or an industry, whereas an Archangel can really diversify. So the way Archangels typically work is they're just looking for a combination of a great company and a great operating partner, and they bring them together. And then they make tremendous wealth by the benefits they get of bringing those parties together and sometimes financing those deals as a financier. They typically want to add value beyond just writing a check and helping you out. They want to be an advisor to you, they want to be a mentor to you, and they can just be an invaluable person in your life as if you're the operating partner. The way they typically structure deals is one of two ways. One way is they'll buy the business 100% themselves, and they'll bring in an operating partner and put them on a path to equity. And so that just means I'm going to knight this person over here as my operating partner. I'm going to call them general manager or president, and they're going to run this company I bought for me. And as long as they perform well, and that could be they hit a certain growth target, and when that growth target is hit, they earn equity. Or it could just be based on longevity. So it could be a 5-year vesting schedule. It's typical you won't vest day one, but maybe month 13. After you've been there a year, your 4-year vesting starts. And so over 5 years, you earn 5, 10, 15, 20% of the company just by being a good manager of it. But it's still owned by the Archangel that bought it on a 100% basis. And that is a win-win for both parties, because it gives that operating partner that didn't put any money into the deal, but it's just, they're getting paid for their work fairly. So they usually pay well for that operating partner. So you make a living salary, but if you do well as the operator, you end up with equity from just sweat equity from running the company. So it's a great win-win for both. The other way Archangel structure deals is they will co-invest alongside a borrower on typically like an SBA deal. So the SBA 7A program is the most popular business acquisition path in America. And the SBA 7A lending goes up to $5 million for a small business loan. And that's for someone just buying an established business in an acquisition. But you can get up to $10 million with some companion products that some banks are offering that we know about. So you can get, one, two, three, even a $7, $8, $9, $10 million deal leveraging the SBA program if you're a qualified buyer. And that just means you've got relevant skills and experience, and you can prove to them that you're the right person. You've got good credit, you've got good skills, but the catch is you need 10% down to get into an SBA loan. And that can be a challenge, especially as you get up into the multi-million-dollar deals the SBA can fund, is a lot of the best operators, when they're trying to take down, say, a $4 million company, they don't have $400,000 of liquid cash to put down as a down payment. So they will ask an Archangel, which would be a small business investor that wants to be an equity partner. They're going to ask them to help fund the equity piece, the down payment part of their deal. So in exchange for helping them with their down payment, they're going to get equity, and they often get what's called a step up, which means they fund maybe 5% of the deal, but they get 10% equity. They can also get preferred equity in the deal as well. And that just means the operating partner agrees to a certain salary that they're gonna pay themselves to run the company, but then any profit that comes out goes to the investor first, plus a negotiated interest rate until their capital is back plus interest. And then at that point, the profits are shared pro rata based on the ownership mix of the operating partner that borrowed the SBA loan and the Archangel, the investor that helped with the down payment. So that's the two basic ways they structure deals. They either buy the whole company and put the operator on a path to equity, or they'll help with a down payment from someone that's getting an SBA loan in exchange for equity and often preferred rights on the distributions of the company, so they can get their cash back plus interest and then go do another deal with that cash, but then they're going to own that small piece of the company forever and enjoy distributions along the way, and also a nice exit. When you go to exit, they'll get their piece of the exit. So let me draw some parallels between three public figures I know you've heard of and how these strategies are similar to what they do. There's Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, runs Amazon. Amazon has taken over the world of retail. They started with books, and then they expanded to other product lines and verticals and horizontals, and now they're everywhere. They own airplanes and trucks. That's a typical platform play, is once they got going, they started expanding every which way, and now you're watching TV shows on Amazon and everything else. They have Amazon Web Services, and they're just this behemoth of a company that grew from a platform play. They just found one niche where they started killing it, and then they started expanding into adjacent spaces until they became this massive company. And so the Jeff Bezos strategy, if you relate to how he does business and kind of starting at one point and then just growing into this expanding universe, that's an example of a platform builder. So Amazon is the mother of all platforms at this point, brought to you by Jeff Bezos. And if you relate to that strategy on a micro scale and you want to be the Jeff Bezos of your town or your niche industry, you want to be a platform builder. Next, you've probably heard of Ray Kroc. He made McDonald's famous. So he is the archetype I think of when I think of the duplicator. So he just found a model that worked and perfected it. He got the science of making burgers super fast, super consistently, the fries super fast, super consistently, the systems that could be idiot-proof and could be duplicated all over the world. And he built an amazing empire of a business by being a duplicator. but you don't see McDonald's expanding into all these other verticals, right? Like they just kind of stay in their lane, duplicate themselves out, and take over the world that way. So if you relate to the Ray Kroc strategy and just say, let's perfect our craft, keep it simple, and duplicate it out, baby, you should be a duplicator. The third person I think of when I think of archangels, so you have to mention Warren Buffett. Okay, so Warren Buffett, as far as I know, never really ran a company except Berkshire Hathaway, which is his investment company. But he wasn't actually, when he would buy See's Candies or these other, Geico Insurance or these other companies that he owns, he didn't become the CEO. He didn't go sit in the CEO seat and run those companies. He made sure there was good CEOs in place, but he was just stewarding those companies and allocating capital, and he became a master of just compounding, and his portfolio is diverse. He has everything from Coca-Cola to insurance and candy and all kinds of stuff. But what he was looking for is just value. He's got a diversified portfolio that's made Berkshire Hathaway one of the most successful companies in the last century. He's diversified, bought quality businesses, put quality leadership in place, and just let them run it. And then he just rolls the capital into the next deal, into the next acquisition. And so the baby microscopic Warren Buffetts out there that say, I don't really want to be CEO of a bunch of companies. I don't even want to be the CEO of one company, but I know how to recognize value and I know how to spot talent, and I want to put those things together and build a portfolio. If Warren Buffett's strategy relates to you, you should be an archangel. I am a true believer that small business is the ultimate way for normal people to build extraordinary wealth. The normal path I see most people take that are buying companies is they'll just buy one good company. They'll treat their customers really well. They'll treat their employees really well. They'll make good profit, and then they'll invest that profit into the stock market or into real estate, and they'll diversify their wealth into other things that aren't small businesses. That's tried and true. It's proven. It's the easy button, no-brainer way to build wealth is you buy one company, take good care of it, and then you invest outside of your company in other securities, real estate, and other preferred investment vehicles. But if you really get into business ownership mastery and you get the skills of a whale shark, I think you're going to outperform the people that take that tried and true path of just one business and diversifying their investments, because the return you get on the small businesses, once you know truly what you're doing in this space, just knock everything else out of the water in terms of what you can do with your wealth as it snowballs and compounds in this space. If you want to go this other path, the whale shark path, that's where you blow through 7-figure net worth into 8, 9-figure net worth, can become worth $100 million or more. I don't think you get there by buying rental houses on the side from your local plumbing company. I think you get there by buying a bunch of plumbing companies. I think you get there by buying electrical companies that play nice with your plumbing company and things like that. So that's the whale shark thinking, is if you want to really accelerate the wealth building, you don't just buy one and steward it and diversify your investments. You go all in on, I'm gonna take what I know about running a business successfully, and I'm gonna create a strategy that snowballs it into tremendous wealth and blows me right through 7 figures into 8 and 9-figure net worth. And I think to do that, you're gonna just have to pick one of those 3 strategies of those 3 different types of whale sharks, really master the skills, and you're gonna be able to achieve results beyond your wildest dreams much differently than the traditional investing path will take you. In upcoming shows, we're gonna keep diving deeper into this topic. We're gonna get to know the whale shark intimately because we have other things we need to talk about. We need to talk about what are the skills all whale sharks have, and what are the different skills these different types of whale sharks have, the platform builder, the duplicator, and the archangel. And how do you know which one's for you? And then we're also gonna interview tons of whale sharks along the way, and you're gonna hear their real numbers, their real stories, and we're gonna give you lots of examples of them. I love this topic. You're gonna get to know it really well if you follow me. I hope you'll like and subscribe and be part of this journey, because I'm gonna teach you everything I've learned in 10 years of studying whale sharks, and you're gonna be able to apply this to your life if you wanna go on this remarkable journey for yourself.